Angel says, beloved soul, breathe for a moment. Still your thoughts. Heaven wants to show you something that will not make sense to your mind at first, but your spirit will recognize it instantly. Because what you're about to hear carries truth, healing, and release. It's about someone your heart still feels connected to. Someone whose soul once whispered your name even in silence. But recently, something happened that shook your peace. You sensed it before you ever knew the details. The sudden distance. The strange silence. The feeling that something changed overnight. And heaven is confirming. Yes, they had a night, a moment, that looked beautiful on the surface but was born from confusion, not conviction. Angel says, don't let your heart break, let it awaken. Because that moment wasn't about betrayal, it was about revelation. God allowed what happened, not to hurt you, but to free what was trapped in illusion. Heaven needed your soulmate to see the emptiness of temporary comfort. To understand that pleasure without purpose always leaves the soul starving. They laughed, they smiled, they tried to convince themselves they were fine. But when the night ended, silence screamed louder than ever before. Because peace was missing. And peace is the signature of God's presence. They reached for distraction, but it couldn't fill the divine space reserved for you. The next morning, heaven began to work. Conviction came like a whisper in their chest. This isn't love, this is escape. And in that moment, their spirit started to remember you. Beloved, you were not forgotten. You were being protected. God pulled you away so that what was fake could expose itself. So that your worth wouldn't be dragged through someone else's confusion. Angel says, heaven saw the tears you cried without anyone noticing. But heaven also saw the faith you didn't abandon. That's why this message has reached you right now, because the chapter that hurt you is turning into the proof that you were always the chosen one. The one they had that night with was not the one their soul was built for. It was the mirror of their old wounds, not the match of their divine purpose. They needed to see what imitation love feels like so they could finally recognize real love when it stands before them again. You are that real love. You carry heaven's light, and light always exposes shadows. Angel says, don't envy the moment they shared, pity the emptiness that followed. Because while they were trying to feel alive, their soul was dying inside. And the next sunrise brought a divine awakening. They remembered your kindness. They remembered your prayers. They remembered how peace wrapped around them whenever they were near you. And that memory began to haunt them, not with guilt, but with truth. Heaven is teaching them through contrast. To know what is true, they had to touch what is false. To understand loyalty, they had to experience disappointment. To appreciate your worth, they had to lose your energy. God says, what I allowed was not rejection, it was redirection. Because the love I planted between you is too sacred to be wasted in immaturity. Beloved, listen closely. That night, the one that broke your heart, was the night heaven began a deeper work in both of you. While they were in someone else's arms, your name was being written again on their conscience. While you cried, angels were preparing reconciliation through transformation. This is not punishment, it's purification. Angel says, hold your peace. Don't text. Don't chase. Don't compare. Let heaven finish what it started. Because guilt will turn into gratitude. Confusion will turn into clarity. And what once made you question your value will soon confirm it. There's a divine paradox here. Sometimes God lets your soulmate fall so they'll learn how to stand. Sometimes He lets them taste emptiness so they'll crave what is holy. Sometimes He lets them lose access to you so they'll understand the cost of ignoring grace. You are grace in human form for them. And that's why heaven will not let this end in pain, it will end in purpose. Right now, their dreams are restless. They keep seeing flashes of you. Your laugh. Your eyes. The way you used to pray for them. It's haunting them not to torment them, but to guide them home. Because their soul knows you are their divine counterpart. The night that was supposed to distract them became the night that exposed everything false. And that exposure is the seed of repentance. Beloved soul, you asked heaven. Why would you let me feel this betrayal? And heaven answered, because I trust your strength. You were chosen not to suffer, but to stand as evidence of unconditional love. Your stillness is preaching louder than any confrontation ever could. Your forgiveness is breaking generational cycles of fear and control. This is bigger than romance. This is redemption. Angel says, don't close your heart. Don't vow never to love again. Because the very person who hurt you is being transformed by the same love you carried. They will return, not because you demanded it, but because heaven designed it. And when they do, they will not be the same. They will carry tears of repentance, not excuses. They will see you through eyes opened by truth. And they will realize that what they were chasing was a distraction from what they were destined for. Beloved, that realization will shock them more than it shocked you. Because they never expected emptiness to feel so heavy. They thought desire would numb the ache, but it magnified it. They thought moving on would bring freedom, but it brought conviction. They thought they could forget you, but heaven tattooed your essence on their spirit. They can't escape what was divinely written. Right now, you may feel waves of sadness for no reason. That's not weakness, it's empathy. Your spirit is connected to theirs, feeling the storm of realization therein. But don't let it pull you down. Transform it into prayer. Because your prayers are the bridge heaven uses to guide them out of confusion. Angel says, there's a time to speak and a time to stay silent. This is your silence season. Because silence carries power when it's filled with faith. Let your absence teach them what your presence once gave freely. Let heaven write the next chapter without your interference. Because what's being birthed now is not another apology, it's a rebirth of destiny. The one they were with is already fading from their mind. The excitement is gone. The illusion is breaking. They're realizing that physical chemistry without spiritual connection is chaos. And every time they try to reach for distraction, they feel heaven blocking the path. Doors closing. Texts ignored. Energy drained. Because God will never bless what replaces what He ordained. Beloved soul, I know this message stirs deep emotions. But remember, heaven reveals to heal, not to humiliate. You are not losing. You are being elevated. What happened wasn't the end, it was exposure for divine clarity. And soon, that clarity will turn into confession. They will tell you everything. They will cry in front of you. They will admit the emptiness, the shame, the realization that love isn't lust, and loyalty isn't convenience. And when that moment comes, your peace will be your answer. Angel says, don't worry about when, focus on becoming. Because the version of you that will meet them again won't be the same wounded heart. You'll be stronger, calmer, wiser, filled with divine discernment. You won't respond from pain, you'll respond from power. That's what heaven is doing, turning your heartbreak into holy preparation. This isn't a competition between you and another. It's a confrontation between truth and illusion. And truth always wins. Heaven doesn't compare souls, it completes them. The other person was never the villain, they were the mirror reflecting what needed to heal. And once the lesson is learned, the mirror disappears. Beloved soul, listen carefully, your soulmate is awakening. They're remembering the promises they made to heaven about love. They're realizing they treated something sacred like something casual. And God is gently breaking their pride to rebuild their heart. They're learning that love isn't found in excitement, it's found in peace. And that peace only lives where you are. Angel says, the shock you feel now will soon become the testimony you share later. You'll tell others, I thought it was over, but it was only beginning. Because the same night that looked like betrayal became the night heaven wrote a new covenant. A covenant of restoration. A covenant of purpose. A covenant of divine reunion. So don't curse the night, bless it. Because without that night, revelation wouldn't have come. Without revelation, transformation wouldn't start. And without transformation, you couldn't have the love heaven truly designed for you. What feels like heartbreak is actually holy ground. You're standing in the middle of a divine exchange, pain for purpose, tears for truth, waiting for wonder. Angel says, soon you'll see why it all had to happen this way. Because heaven is writing something beautiful, not a fairy tale, but a faith story. And when it unfolds, you'll say, now I understand. You'll thank God not just for bringing them back, but for changing both of you first. That's what divine love does, it purifies before it unites. Angel says, beloved one. As heaven continues to unfold this truth, your heart will begin to feel a strange calm, not because the story is easy, but because the revelation is divine. You're not meant to live in confusion anymore. You're meant to live in clarity. And clarity has arrived. That night that seemed to break you was the turning point that broke the illusion. Your soulmate woke up with a silence inside them they couldn't explain. The laughter from the night before suddenly felt hollow. The comfort they thought they found vanished with the morning light. Because no human touch can replace divine connection. And your connection wasn't born from the flesh, it was breathed by heaven itself. They tried to silence their conscience, but heaven wouldn't let them rest. Every song, every dream, every quiet moment began to echo your name. The smile they forced started to fade. The peace they pretended to have started to crumble. They saw your face when they closed their eyes. They heard your voice in their spirits saying, this is not who you are. Because love, true, heavenly love, doesn't die when silence begins. It grows in stillness until it bursts through pride. Angel says, their soul is trembling. They're remembering how your love wasn't loud but loyal. They're realizing how they traded something sacred for something shallow. And heaven is making sure they don't forget. Because when God ordains a union, even separation becomes part of the healing. Even mistakes become teachers. Even regret becomes the soil for revelation. Right now, your soulmate is being confronted by divine truth. Every time they replay that night in their mind, their spirit whispers, this isn't love. Every time they try to justify it, heaven sends conviction like a wave. They can't escape the mirror anymore. And the mirror shows them what they became when they stepped out of alignment. It's not judgment, it's mercy. Because God corrects what He intends to restore. Beloved, you prayed for their transformation, not their destruction. And heaven listened. So instead of punishing them, heaven is awakening them. They're being humbled. They're learning that love is not a game, and destiny is not replaceable. They're seeing now that what they lost wasn't a person, it was a purpose. You were that purpose. Angel says, don't gloat, don't wish them pain. Because your compassion is part of your crown. The one who keeps love pure even in betrayal walks in divine royalty. Heaven sees how you still choose to bless them in prayer. That's why you'll be rewarded not only with restoration, but with recognition. Because when the time comes, they will tell the world how your love changed them. Heaven says, I'm rewriting their heart. You will not need to prove your worth, their actions will. You will not need to ask for closure, their repentance will speak it. This story will end in glory, not grief. Because what was meant to destroy your trust will become the stage for divine trust to be rebuilt. They're being stripped of ego. That's why they're quiet. That's why you feel their pull energetically but not physically. Because heaven has them in isolation, breaking every pride that made them blind. They thought they could move on, but now every attempt to connect with others feels wrong. Nothing flows. Nothing satisfies. Because the divine connection they left behind is irreplaceable. Angel says, heaven is not finished. The same way you wept in secret, they are now weeping too. The same way you begged God for understanding, they're begging God for forgiveness. The same way you released them in prayer, they're releasing the old patterns in repentance. This is divine balance. Heaven never leaves anything unresolved when love is real. Right now, angels are whispering to them in dreams. They see your eyes. They feel your presence. They're being shown visions of the future, the life they could have had, the peace they lost, the home they were meant to build with you. And those visions are stirring a holy fear, the fear of losing you forever. That fear will drive them back to humility. It will bring them to their knees before God. And from that humility, restoration will begin. Beloved, the night that once wounded you is becoming the proof that heaven fights for you. Every tear you cried is being counted as intercession. Every sigh is being turned into strength. Every lonely hour is becoming preparation for promotion. Because God is not only restoring love, He's raising your vibration. You're moving from heartbreak to higher purpose. Angel says, new doors are opening for you while theirs are closing. This isn't revenge, it's divine rearrangement. Heaven will show you that you can shine even when someone mishandles your heart. You'll be positioned in peace. Your glow will speak of grace. And that glow will call them back, not because you chase, but because you've changed. They will reach out, trembling, unsure if you'll listen. And when they do, you'll feel heaven's calm flow through you. You'll know it's time. Not time to punish, but to discern. Because true forgiveness doesn't mean instant access, it means holy boundaries guided by peace. Angel says, you'll know the difference between apology and transformation. You'll feel it in their tone, their energy, their eyes. Because real change speaks in silence before it ever speaks in words. When they return, they will be soft-spoken. They will talk less and listen more. They will tell you that what they thought was pleasure turned into emptiness. They will say your name with reverence this time. Because they now understand that love is sacred ground. And only hearts that honor it can walk upon it. Heaven is also healing you from the memory of that night. The image, the pain, the betrayal, it's being erased from your emotional field. You'll remember the lesson but not the sting. Because heaven is restoring your innocence. You will trust again, love again and smile again, not because you forgot, but because you forgave. And forgiveness is freedom. Angel says, you are being lifted above the storm that once drowned you. Your energy is shifting from wounded to wise. Your spirit is rising from the ashes of heartbreak. And your future is being written with heavenly ink. You're not just someone's soulmate, you're God's chosen vessel of love and grace. That's why your story carries such weight. Because others will find healing through your testimony. The night that was supposed to embarrass you will become the night heaven elevated you. People will look at you and see strength that doesn't make sense. They'll wonder how you stayed so calm. And you'll simply say, because heaven held me when everything fell apart. That's the whisper of hope that will flow through this channel, through your life, through every word you speak. Beloved, your soulmate's eyes are being opened. They see now that they were never supposed to seek validation through others. They see now that love isn't measured by excitement, but by peace. They see now that what they lost was holy. And that realization is sacred pain, the kind of pain that purifies. Let it purify, not destroy. Because only purified love can stand the fire of destiny. Heaven says, prepare your heart, because reconciliation is not distant. But this time, it will be different. The same person will return with a new spirit. You'll recognize the transformation instantly. The way they speak, the humility in their eyes, the softness in their soul, it will all reflect heaven's work. They will say, I thought I was chasing freedom, but I was running from my purpose. And you'll feel peace wash over you like light. Angel says, this is not fantasy, it's prophecy. But prophecy requires patience. Let God complete the circle. Let the healing be finished on both sides. Because when the reunion comes, it will not be fragile. It will not break under pressure. It will not repeat the past. It will carry the fragrance of heaven, love purified by fire. Beloved soul, hear this deeply. What they did cannot undo what heaven wrote. Mistakes don't cancel destiny, they refine it. And sometimes, the only way God can open stubborn eyes is through temporary heartbreak. Heaven used that night to wake up a sleeping heart. To remind them that you were never a choice, you were the calling. And a calling can't be ignored forever. Right now, the angels assigned to your union are moving pieces you cannot see. Messages, dreams, coincidences, reminders that pull them back toward purpose. You may even notice signs around you, repeated numbers, songs, phrases that feel too precise. That's heaven's confirmation that reconciliation energy is activating. Don't chase it, align with it. Stay in gratitude. Stay in prayer. Stay in peace. Because while they're healing, heaven is preparing your blessing. Your career, your home, your confidence, your glow, all are being renewed. When they see you next, they won't meet the same version they once hurt. They'll meet the upgraded version heaven built during your waiting. And that moment will humble them to their core. Because they'll realize that losing you was the biggest lesson of their life. Angel says, your story is proof that grace wins. Not gossip, not revenge, not silence born of pride, but grace. You chose to love in a world that told you to harden. You chose to forgive when others told you to forget. You chose to trust heaven when logic screamed, walk away. That's why heaven trusts you with this testimony. Beloved, the one they were with is fading out of their story. Their connection is dissolving by divine design. They'll wake up one morning unable to feel anything for that person. Because God will remove the counterfeit to restore the covenant. And when they look back, they'll realize that night was not love, it was the turning point that led them home. Soon, you'll feel the shift in your spirit. Peace will return stronger than before. Your heart will no longer ache when you think of them. You'll smile, not out of denial, but out of divine understanding. Because you'll finally see what heaven was doing all along. You'll whisper, now I know, it was all part of my becoming. Angel says, hold on to this promise. Everything that left your life without peace will return with purpose or never return at all. You won't have to beg for clarity, heaven will bring it to your doorstep. You won't have to chase love, love will chase you when it's ready. You won't have to force what's divine, it will flow naturally when both souls are healed. There will be a day, soon, when the very person who caused your tears will stand before you in awe. They'll see the glow that only heaven can give. They'll know that every other connection was counterfeit compared to the light they once held and lost. And they will tremble, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because now they'll see you the way heaven always saw you. Chosen, anointed, irreplaceable. And when that happens, you'll feel heaven smile. Because every delay, every detour, every heartbreak was leading to this moment of holy recognition. Not to glorify the pain, but to reveal the power of divine timing. You'll realize it was never just about romance, it was about destiny aligning with divine maturity. Angel says, this is your season of revelation. Your season of restoration. Your season of rising above what was meant to bury you. Because God has turned the night of betrayal into the dawn of blessing. Heaven whispers now, let go of the timeline. Let go of the fear. Let go of the memory of that night. Because when love returns this time, it will be healed, holy, and whole. Breathe, beloved. You are safe in divine timing. You are not behind, you are being refined. You are not forgotten, you are being prepared. The angels of reconciliation are already at work. The wind of restoration is already blowing. And soon, peace will walk back into your life, not as a person, but as a promise fulfilled. Angel says, keep your faith alive. Keep your hope sacred. Because heaven never ends a story in heartbreak when love was born from its light. This is not the end, it's the beginning you prayed for. And the one who once broke your heart will one day hold it again, gently this time, with both hands trembling. Because they'll finally understand what heaven gave them through you. So stand tall, beloved. Smile again. Trust again. Because your story is not tragedy, it's testimony. And heaven is whispering. This is the love that couldn't die, because I planted it myself.